we're just gonna leave my cup of tea there while I film this video. Hello guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm gonna be telling you guys about some of the books I DNF'd this year. And there weren't many, but there were some. Probably more than previous years because I have been trying to DNF more. I don't want to be spending time on books that I'm not enjoying. And so, unfortunately, there were a few of those this year. So we're going to start with 8 White Nights by Andre Ackerman. And I think I read this around February time, I want to say. And I read this because I just read It's Gone. I had it in my head and it's gone. This is why I'm so crap at filming videos, because I don't have a good memory. One Day in December, that's what it's called. We'll start that again. I'd just read One Day in December by Josie Silver at the start of 2020. And I was in a big romance mood, and so I went to my library, picked up a couple of books that I thought I would like, and 8 White Nights was one of them. I've read some Andre Ackerman before. I've read Call Me By Your Name, a very popular book, and I don't particularly like that one. When I think about it a bit more, it's not a book that I would recommend anymore. But I gave this one a go, and I got 100 pages in and nothing had happened. It was so boring. I was falling asleep reading it. Now, I generally fall asleep when I read anyway, but not because a book is boring, but because reading relaxes me to the point that I just fall asleep. But this one put me to sleep because it was boring. It was just, the 100 pages that I read was just 100 pages of pure monologue, pure rambling, some guys' annoying thoughts. And it's about this guy, and I can't remember his name, so that's a good start, but he meets this woman called Clara at a party. It's a Christmas party, and it's set over the period of 8 nights, and so it's kind of a romance blossoming. But it reminded me of The Time Traveller's Wife in the sense that it was literally word for word everything that happened. Like, it was just so poorly paced, and it wasn't for me. I couldn't get into it. The romance, like, Clara came off as a really annoying character. Like, she was trying too hard to be witty and clever, and the way he had written her, she was just this like two-dimensional thing, and I didn't like it. And maybe if I'd stuck with it a bit more, I might have found out a bit more about Clara and come to realise that she's actually great, and she's more than this wannabe intelligent person. I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't like it. So I had to DNF this one because I was just wasting my time with it. And the fact that I spent 100 pages reading it is just time wasted, I tell you. I'm kind of sad about this one, but The Deathless Girls by Kieran Millward Hargraves. This was one of my most anticipated reads of 2019, I think, and I was gifted it for Christmas by my boyfriend. So we're going to start with some positives for this book, and I love the cover. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the end pages, gorgeous. Love the inspiration behind this book, and it's inspired by Dracula's wives, I believe. And that's what really appealed to me about this book. I actually got quite far into it. I got to page 268. So I read quite a lot of it, but I DNF'd this in the end because I just wasn't feeling it. And to be honest, I don't think it was the book. I think it was the fact that I was reading this during the start of lockdown. So we'd literally gone into lockdown at the end of March, and I think I picked this up around that time, maybe start of April. And my head wasn't in a very good place, and everything that I used to enjoy doing, like reading and writing and walking, all of that, I just lost interest in. So I don't think it was the book, I think it was just me not being in the right headspace to read. And so in the end I just ended up not finishing it, but it did kind of disappoint me in the fact that it wasn't vampiric enough. It wasn't what I expected it to be. I had very high expectations for it, and the fact that I had those high expectations just kind of ruined the experience in the end, because it didn't live up to the expectations that I had for it. But I'm not saying it's a bad book. I do need to go back and reread this at some point because I want to give it another chance. There were elements of it that I really did like the LGBTQ plus representation in this book, and the atmosphere was great. I don't know. I ended up not finishing it, and it put me in a big reading slump for 3 months, basically. So I'm sorry to people who like this book, but I will give it another go and we'll see how that turns out. Before I go on to my next physical book, I just remembered that I wanted to mention this one here, A Poem for Every Day of the Year. I started this on audio and I started it in January, and the idea was that I was going to listen to a poem every day for 365 days. But I didn't do that in the end because the poems are so short that I ended up listening to quite a lot of the audiobook at one given time. But I got about halfway through and I just decided it wasn't for me. I'm not a huge poetry fan anyway. I don't really read it. I've not really found any poetry that I like yet. So if you guys have any suggestions for some really cool poetry that you think I might like, feel free to leave me some recommendations and I will give them a go. Always want to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I just wanted to mention this one because this one just didn't work out how I wanted it to in the end, and it's still on my Audible and it still says, would you like to finish this? No. We've got Universal, A Guide to the Cosmos by Brian Cox and Jeff Forshaw. So I read this for the reading rush in July, and that was a mistake. In hindsight, I should have picked a different book because it's so complicated, and I will finish this eventually. I got halfway through. Again, it's not a bad book, it's just really complicated. There's a lot to think about. I am interested in science. I've always been interested in the universe, the planets, stars, black holes, everything like that. And I have read a lot of Brian Cox's stuff. I've seen him live, which was where I got this book from. And it is signed as well. Let me just show that off because why not? Yeah, I've had this book for ages and I've been meaning to get to it, so I thought I would, but I should not have picked it for the reading rush because I spent way too much time reading this, trying to comprehend the information in this book. I ended up not finishing it, but I will probably finish this at some point in the future because it is one of those books that you can just dive into whenever you want. It's probably not suited to someone like me and trying to read it all in one sitting. I wouldn't recommend that with this. But yeah, pretty sad that I didn't finish this one. But like I said, I probably will in the future. We'll see. But it is a gorgeous book anyway, and like I showed you, it's signed, so I won't be getting rid of it. I will be treasuring this forever. We've got the TARDIS Type 40 instruction manual, which I didn't finish, and I probably never will because, I don't know, I just read this for fun for my Doctor Who Day vlog. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it other than it's just about the TARDIS. And being a Doctor Who fan, I know enough about the TARDIS anyway, and so reading this was like just reading everything that I already knew, but it was fun. I don't know if I will finish it. I might. But it was just something to include in the vlog, another way for me to celebrate Doctor Who Day. I don't really know what else to say about it. So yeah, I swear there's some more. Give me 1 second. Okay, I thought there was more than this, but there's not. So the last book that I'm going to talk about is Crave by Tracy Wolff, and this is probably the most satisfying DNF of my life because I hated this book. And I got an ARC of this on NetGalley. And I try not to DNF ARCs. I try to read them all the way through so that I can give honest feedback. I don't like to be one of those people that reviews something that I didn't finish, especially when it comes to ARCs, because I know how important that feedback is to people. But I couldn't cope with this book. I'm sorry. And I know there are some people out there that love it, and there are a few people that have told me off for not finishing it. But I hated this. So this was actually a book that I was rather excited for. So when I was accepted for an ARC, I was over the moon because I've read a lot of vampire YA this year and none of it lived up to my expectations. So I was really hopeful for this one. The premise sounded amazing. But already, like, in the first chapter, there were issues. And I was like, okay, it's YA, you know, don't hold too high of expectations for it because it's not really your thing anymore. So I powered through and I got about, it's a 600-page book, I believe. It's quite a chunky book. So I got 200 pages in before I eventually DNF'd it. And it felt so good. To be honest, because there was just so much about this book that I didn't like. And it's not the fact that it was cliched that put me off. Like, I can deal with cliches. There are certain tropes that I absolutely love, no matter how cheesy or predictable they are. But I had issues with the main character, didn't like how she was written. I didn't like the references to One Direction and TV shows and all these things that teenage girls are into, and that's fine if you like that in books, and I'm not going to criticize you for it, but it just wasn't for me. And I felt like 200 pages in and I still don't know anything about this male love interest. I don't care for him, to be honest. I don't like him. And it was just so annoying. It was so repetitive and I was bored. And so I had to DNF it. And I felt so guilty for it because I know how much people enjoyed this book. And I was really looking forward to it myself. But I couldn't deal with it, unfortunately. So I had to DNF it. I'm not going to feel bad about it anymore because I put this one away and I ended up reading a really good book afterwards. So there we go. Alright, so this video ended up being shorter than I thought it was going to be because I thought I had DNF'd more books than this, but apparently not. Which you could consider to be a good thing because that means I read quite a few good books this year, but I also did power through a few books that I wish I hadn't. So I don't know, but yeah, it is always sad when I DNF a book, especially if I've been looking forward to it, but I am trying not to make myself read books that I don't want to read anymore. So maybe I'll DNF more books next year, maybe not. I don't want to be DNFing books, but anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments down below if you agree with any of the decisions that I have made this year. There's only really 2 books that I DNF'd because I really didn't like them. The other ones are just for various other reasons. I feel like I might get a bit of hate for some of the choices that I've made, especially regarding Crave, but I'm prepared to put my neck on the line for this. You know, I'm sorry guys. Please leave a cheeky thumbs up if you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos from me in the future. And I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye guys.